Welcome, fellow patriots, to our first Independent American Statesman's brief broadcast as we begin to educate Americans and other welcome listeners on the current state of the nation for this great but troubled union of 50 United States and 6 occupied territorial possessions of America. This message and these ideas were all produced, sponsored, and brought to you by the E Pluribus Unum Common Good Foundation, a 501c3, nonpartisan and nonprofit educational and research think tank aimed at helping to preserve and protect the Union and the U.S. Constitution as formed and written as a capitalist free market democratic system and society. This broadcast is coming to you from the DMV of our nation's capital. And now for our first message. Common sense, common decency, and conventional wisdom no longer exists in this once upon a time greatest nation in the world society. Thomas Paine's 245-year-old Common Sense Edict, this February 14th, clearly reflects the sufferance our Declaration suggested would justify our right and need for a new revolution. This would now be our fourth battle to rectify a major wrong and to preserve a basic core national sovereign belief. Here, with bloody background upon which our nation became the singularly great country, we are now in mortal danger of once again losing that greatness born out of solidarity, now so disruptively splintered and coming apart. Today we are facing grave challenges to our unitedness. The First Revolutionary War began April 19, 1775, in Concord and Lexington, Massachusetts, to establish our domestic sovereign independent statehood right to exist. Then the Second Revolutionary War of 1812 began June 18, 1812, near Boston Harbor, and the battle was against the British to establish our exclusive right to territorial expansion on this North American continent. The last or Third Revolutionary or Civil War began April 12, 1861, in Charleston Harbor, when the Southern Confederate troops fired on the federal Fort Sumter, and the North, led by President Abraham Lincoln, fought back to confirm the American belief that all mankind were created equal and free as men in our society. Now we are facing a reflection of sufferance as a society with a failing educational system and an already almighty, too powerful, and corrupt political arena and governance. Why is this, you might ask? Because nothing is common in America anymore. Even the common denominator has 300 million different perspectives or viewpoints. Conventional wisdom no longer exists in America since our recent leadership of Mr. Obama or Trump irresponsibly adjourned the last such convention with a parliamentary faux pas saying, "I adjourn this convention sine die," and that Latin in English means never to convene again. We must now note and remember from history. 245 years ago, our founding father Thomas Paine said, quote, "A long habit of not thinking a thing wrong gives the superficial appearance of being right, and raises as a formidable outcry in defense of custom, but that tumult soon subsides. Time makes more converts than reason, and to which I add, makes more converts than common sense." Thinking of our nearly 6 decades-long repeated annual government deceitful, deceptive, and dishonest deficits, a growing national debt, and Social Security and senior year medical care trust fund thefts, causes me to want to make a difference in this drain the swamp era of Make America Great Again. I have now begun to see the value of the 2008-2009 beginning of the Tea Party movement on the right and the 2011 beginning of the Occupy Wall Street movement on the left. That was when Americans on both sides of the political aisle began to see the corruption in our national political movement and the abuses in our federal government and said both, enough is enough. This initially wanted to make a difference in America to preserve our great union. Unfortunately, however, they have both been since co-opted, hijacked, and kidnapped by the 2 major political parties, and they no longer have the major focus that was started. I also now note if any banker, lawyer, or accountant or financial advisor serving as a trustee of funds or other resources were to misuse or misapply those trust assets for a purpose other than their declared intended purpose, their misuse or misapplication would be seen as a behavior that was declared unethical, criminal, and without right of any kind, and for which the trustee would be defrocked and disbarred and likely face criminal prosecution resulting in jail or prison sentences. That would be a major trust violation. Just such a criminal act began 56 years ago, in 1964, by our 36th President Lyndon Baines Johnson. To fund his so-called Great Society legislative agenda, he authorized the theft of the Social Security and senior years medical care trust funds. In the 56 years and 28 congressional sessions since, it has become commonplace for Democrat and Republican House and Senate members to continue stealing and misapplying these trust funds. In addition, these foolhardy criminal and spendthrift Congresses annually overspend the regular government tax revenues, giving us deficits and a horrendous, humongous, and gigungous national debt. Now, tonight, December 30th, this short-term debt of $27,537 billion and the long-term debt of $155,569 billion has become a total national debt of $183,106 billion, a fund likely never repayable. None of this includes the current stimulus and government funding package, reported to be $2.3 trillion. The greatest danger and most egregious enemy facing our nation, continued existence today, are the career politicos who control and dominate our government and our political arena and our D.C. environment. The greatest danger and most egregious enemy facing our nation today is the continued existence of the career politicos who control, dominate our government, our political arena, and our Washington, D.C. environment. These are the criminals who regularly and repeatedly run for, get elected to, and continue to serve in their dishonorable public service careers. Having spent more than half of their adult life in public service positions, building a voter dynasty base of re-election support, while focused on increasing their power and influence peddling ability, they are also accumulating a personal wealth treasury for themselves or their families. Their mission is to get elected term after term, election after election, time and again. But no one of any integrity challenges them. If term limits kick in, they merely play musical chairs with their opponents and colleagues and run for each other's offices. These are the politicos who have emptied the treasury, broke the bank, and led by poor example. And since no one of integrity and guts has challenged them, our national overriding ignorance of re-electing the same people has allowed them to continue in their insane and selfish career pursuits. No one of these federal trust thieves has ever been challenged or prosecuted by our crazy society for the criminal behavior of doing these wrongs. As Thomas Paine warned us some many years ago, we have continued for decades and now are thought to be all right. Quote, with the superficial appearance of being okay. Wake up, America. Wake up now, as we need a new nonviolent Fourth American Revolution to revive and restore our constitutional integrity. The career political public service tenure must be ended abruptly by enacting a strict and enforceable office and career term limit, and we must need a balanced budget law to assure us against deficits and national debt growth. A campaign finance reform now must limit donors and donations to only people who are citizens and who can vote for the candidate, office, and ballot issue they are trying to support or oppose. It is also advisable and makes common sense to have residency requirements that the elected public officials must all reside in the city, district, county, state, or territory for which their elective office will seek to serve. Last but not least, it also makes common sense to enact a new election registration law for a federal registry that requires picture ID and proof of place of birth. That is the best, if not the only way, to avoid the potential vulnerability for voter fraud. With the current absentee and mail-in ballot voting process, America was warned about this by former President James Earl Carter and his Presidential Library study of a few years ago. Another anonymous quote I just saw, I say, if America saw what the USA was doing today in these supposedly great United States, the United States would invade the USA to liberate them from the tyranny of the United States. Think about that, Mr. and Mrs. America. Now will you step to the plate and be counted as part of we the people and making America great again? Thank you.